Lisa, welcome to the Locker Room Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So excited to chat with you today and just to have our dancers learn more about your story. Can you introduce yourself to the audience and give a little bit of your background?
So my name's Lisa, born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. I started dancing when I was 2, but then I became more serious about it when I was about six or seven. And then I started competing at the age of about 9-ish, 9 before I turned 10, and then competed all the way through high school. Then I attended the University of Arkansas. It was called the Pom Squad then. Now it's called the dance team, but I was on the Pom Squad there. And funny story, I actually was SUI for a few games. They needed some extra help around campus. So I have some mascot experience too. But I did that for a few games. And then once I graduated, I came back to Dallas, pursued a lifelong dream of mine. And I was with the Dallas Mavericks Dancers for 2 years. And then I was with the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders for 2 years. And unfortunately, I suffered a pretty serious spine injury where I was auditioning for my third year. And then I had to pull out 5 days before they announced the team because as they told me, I was risking paralysis or loss of feeling in my extremities. So they said either you have a surgery or you stop dancing. And I'm like, that's like telling me to stop breathing. So I'm going to have a surgery. Things happen, life happens. And ever since then, I've been teaching and choreographing since I was about 14. I still do that. I'm thanking God that I'm still able to do that, even though I can't dance at the caliber or frequency that I want to, but I can still at least teach and choreograph. I was even the assistant director for an ECHL hockey team here in Dallas for about a year. I've actually been the coach for my middle school cheer team that I went to. And then this is actually my second year as director for the program. So I'm still involved, as best as I can. And just want to give back to the younger generation, help them achieve their dreams.
That's amazing. I'm sure you've seen the evolution of dance in the middle school stages then going into high school. Like you're in like the real middle of it with middle schoolers then.
Oh yes. And I tell my girls because I teach this will be my second year going into junior DCC. I just started teaching them too. So now I used to just teach about 10, 12 and up. Now I teach 4 and up. So I really see all ages. And I tell my girls, I'm like, y'all, I feel bad for you guys in terms of the social media aspect of it and the pressure that you feel because it wasn't just, oh, you go to a local competition and you see what other dance studios are doing. No. Now you see what people from across the nation, across the world are doing.
Yeah.
And you feel that pressure to keep up with that caliber of training.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't meet people's expectations, you'll hear about it. You know what I mean? That's tough physically already, but mentally and emotionally, especially for someone that's still going through the developmental parts of childhood, that's hard.
Yeah. And even just, I was looking at the college requirements for the commodification video. They have to have an aerial on both sides. They have to have 5 pirouettes on the right and 3 on the left. I'm like, I would have never made anything, but then again, we would have had the training back then too. If we think about it. So like the base is just the level of expectation for you to have is higher. However, you can get that training, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Sure. Back in the day, if you had an aerial, you were a unicorn.
Yeah, you were.
Okay. Really. You were a unicorn. Now it's like a double turn now,
it might be even compared to a single turn these days.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah. Okay. So you said that being an NBA dancer, NFL cheerleader was your lifelong dream. When did that become that goal?
I think it stemmed from a very young age. I'd probably say when I became more serious about it, when I was about 6 or 7, just because I used to dance at Dallas Powerhouse.
Okay.
And Shella Statler was the owner. I love her so much. She was the owner, but she was also the director for the Dallas Mavericks Dancers at the time. So going to classes, I would see the girls coming in for their weekly practices.
Yeah.
And, you're just all star eyes, and just, I want to be like them when I grow up. And then I also grew up down the street from Texas Stadium. I could hear it being imploded from my house. That's how close I was to it. So of course, you have these 2 iconic programs in the professional dance world that you're just sitting there, man, I hope one day I could be that girl. And just remembering the feeling that I felt looking at those women and then having the roles reversed and hopefully inspiring the younger generation too, just because I knew what it felt like. That was just so fulfilling. It gives me goosies thinking about it, but that's where it started.
That's amazing. Okay, so you've done both NBA and NFL.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite?
Everyone always asks me that, and it's literally comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I
know.
mean?
Oh,
And
I
and
know.
yeah, you get that, you get that. But
Yeah.
you have 10 home games with NFL. You have 40 with NBA.
Mhm.
Obviously it's football versus basketball. So if you're more higher pace, more intimate because you're closer to the
Mhm.
court, then you have NBA. But if it's still high pace, don't get me wrong with football, but it's
Oh, right.
slower compared to NBA because they're just back and forth, back and forth. But then also the style of dancing, which is why
Mhm.
we're here. But NBA was very grounded, very powerful. It was almost a blend of hip hop and pom. There were some jazzy components depending on what we were doing, but
Yeah.
I would say the root foundation of it was more hip hop and pom. And then when you go to NFL, it's almost a melting pot of everything. You have jazzy components, you have some lyrical, I would say, just because of the flowy aspect to it. But
Mhm.
then you still had to be grounded but lifted because
Yeah.
you had to project to 100,000 people versus 20,000. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yep.
So very different style of dancing. And I will say it was quite the transition, even going from college, very very palm, very
Mhm.
precise, to then, which again was the style back then, because now it's very different with the dance teams these days in
Yeah.
college, as we very well know, UDA.
Yes.
But even then, going into Mavs, I was sitting here, what's a chest? I don't know. I gotta go both ways now. Like I gotta use my
The
upper body.
counterclockwise or like whichever way is you're not your way for your
Yes.
chest will get everyone. It literally gets
Yes.
everyone.
I told girls all the time in class, I'm like, guys, I literally looked like a fool in front of my bathroom mirror trying to work on isolation, like while I'm brushing my teeth, because I would rather look like a dummy in front of myself in a
Yeah.
bathroom versus in front of 20,000 people. So yeah, I had to work on those isolations going from that. And it was very grounded, very lift, or very,
Yeah.
and then NFL had to dial it back a little bit,
Mhm.
because it wasn't that forceful. You could have moments like that, but you had to have more variety.
I love that. That's intricate. And because you've been able to be on both sides, you can be able to tell that story, which is super helpful. Because I think a lot of girls, they, at least in our program and in our community, they'll start training and they'll train for NFL and then they'll go straight into NBA if they don't make it onto an NFL team. So you have to be able to be versatile and
Yes.
be grounded and be able to project. There are some consistencies between both,
Right.
but then there are those like small differences between the leagues and between teams too, right? Like some of the teams are leaning more hip hop, some are going straight jazz, and that's in
Mhm.
NBA and NFL.
Absolutely. And that's why anytime I teach a class where it's a pro prep
Yeah.
and they ask me, "Hey, what's your best advice on prepping for any team?" One, look at the city that you're moving to. You got to make sure that you at least love the city.
Yeah.
Two, make sure, like you said, that you are researching that program. Because
Mhm.
if you're more inclined to be a hip hoppy dancer, but they're not really hip hop, just make sure that you're doing your homework. But then in terms of being versatile, I always tell people, hey, if hip hop is your favorite class, get in a jazz class.
Yeah.
You need to expose yourself to different genres that you may not feel you're strongest in. That way you can adapt on the spot. So I'm all
Yeah.
in right there.
Every,
Yeah.
every month we have a jazz routine and a hip hop routine in our program
Yes.
specifically for that. And and most dancers like myself, I grew up studio and I was a lyrical dancer and hip hop was not my thing. And so when I made it onto Warriors, it was all hip hop. It was
Yep.
down and dirty and grimy and all that stuff. And so I got cut my first hip hop routine because I didn't know what I was doing. And then I was like, that's never going to happen to me again. And so I had to transition how I performed and how I danced. But you have to be able to have that versatility, even if you don't think that you're quote unquote this jazz dancer or this hip hop dancer. You really need to be able to do both depending on the league and team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just being exposed to different teaching styles, because not everyone tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They might sing at you. I know I sing, and then all of a sudden I'll throw in a 5 and a 6 and a 7, and you're like, wait, numbers. So you just have to be, you have to be, yeah, like you said, versatile and adapt quickly.
Yes. Or you'll get like a boom cat heat hat, and then you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, like what language are you speaking? You can't read my mind? What do you mean?
You have to. You have to kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
What was your favorite experience with the Mavs?
Oh man, I actually have this favorite experience hanging on a wall in my apartment. I tried to make it as life size as possible, and that'll make sense once I tell you the story.
Okay.
But so obviously, growing up in Dallas, you watch Dallas sports.
Yeah.
Dirk Nowitzki was here for 20 plus years. Okay. So I grew up with that man.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I actually saw him, once I made the team, I started crying and we were practicing for a dance. And my teammates were like, Lisa, get it together. Like, come on, guys, you don't understand. I've been waiting. Like, anyway, so it was my second year. It was my second year on the team. And our director comes up to me. She goes, Lisa, I tell you this, don't freak out. And you never, like, if your director just comes to you and tells you that out of nowhere, you're about to your pants. Like, what do you mean? Don't freak out. Yes. Like, okay, okay. So she goes, don't freak out. But Dirk is receiving the key to the city of Dallas tonight. And I go, amazing. Not freaking out yet, but amazing. And she goes, they are asking for 2 dancers to stand next to him while he receives this. I lost it. I was like, what? Are you asking me to do that? And so she goes, you can't freak out though. If you freak out, I can't let you do it. So I was thankful enough to be able to stand next to him, literally right next to him. And one of my good friends was taking photos that night on the sidelines, and he captured 3 of the best photos of my life. And I have this 6-foot canvas. Like I said, try to make it as tall as possible. But you know, I go to this man at the navel. Okay, I'm short next to this man, but yeah, I stood next to him whenever he received that, and it was so neat. And then I would say that, and then whenever we went to China for the NBA Global Games, and there were, I think, 8 of us that went. So that was my first time going that far away from America, overseas, and then just experiencing the culture over there. That in itself was awesome. But then seeing how sports can bring together. I mean, as we see this with the Olympics, FIFA, everything like that, how it brings the world together. You know, it's like a universal language that we all love and adore, and that we all understand. So just seeing everyone come in together, and there's a video that someone has where, you know, I think our director was taking it, and then you hear one of the natives going, ooh, in the background, because they're not used to that kind of dancing, right? So that was really fun too.
Yeah, I went to China 3 times with the Warriors. I went for global games, and I went 4 times. I think it was 3, but we did auto shows during the summer.
Ooh, fun.
And we went to very, very small like towns or cities in China, and we went to like multiple locations. It was madness.
Yeah.
But the global games were so amazing and so and just I think we played against the Lakers, and so it was even bigger, and Kobe was there, and it was just the mass draw in. It was just unbelievable.
Well, and then you get to talk with the other dancers, because we were competing against the 76ers.
Yeah.
So then you get to meet their entertainment group. Yeah. And I'm still following girls from the team, you know, on Instagram. And we still keep up, say happy birthday, congratulations on your baby, your marriage, whatever it is. So that's so cool, you know, years after, almost 10 years after, and we're still connected. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think like someone outside of the dance space, she was like, do the girls who are in your program consider each other competition? And I was like, you know, that's a very interesting question. And I don't think so, because they're still like rooting each other on while they're competing against each other. Like, and what I tell them is you keep your blinders on, you stay focused on what you need to do, and you can still root your friends on, right?
For sure.
And the reason why I say that is because like this space is such a big sisterhood. I reached out to you, we've never met before, and you're like, yes, I'm really in to be here, right? Like, how can we, for the greater good of the pro dance space, help as many people as we possibly can? How can we be like, we are sisters, even though we've never met each other?
No, it's true. And if anything, I don't think competition would be the right word. Right. If anything, I would say it's more so inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, y'all are inspiring each other to not plateau. You are inspiring each other to reach your goals, reach your dreams. Hey, how can I even help you achieve that? If I'm more of a leggy person, but you're more of a leap person, how can I help you with your legs and you help me with my leaps, kind of thing? You know what I mean? So we're constantly encouraging each other, even though we are technically competing against one another. Because even on Mavs, and I'm sure it was the same with Warriors, we had to audition for every single dance. Not everyone danced on the court for every game. So every single night was an audition.
Yeah.
But never did you really feel like that.
No.
Because we're all in here for the same goal. We want to improve ourselves, yes, but we want to be the best dancing that we can be. We want to help each other. There's a healthy way to go about it. It's healthy competition, you know, but I don't like saying, oh, she's my competitor, you know.
No. And like, it, like you said, you build inspiration from, or you draw inspiration from these dancers in like the artistry form, where you're drawing inspiration from those around you versus them being complete competition to you of like, oh, that person did this thing really amazing. I was taking a dance class a couple weeks ago and I could not figure out this move for the life of me. I've just gotten back into pushing myself into like commercial jazz, which I've never taken before. And I was like, hey, this move, I'm like, I watched the choreographer or the teacher. I asked him, and it was slow for me.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it for the life of me. But I watched someone else do it. She didn't do it any different, but the way that she executed it, I was able to finally get my footing and finally get myself to execute it the way that it needed to be. And it truly is drawing inspiration from what people are doing well and how you can apply it to yourself.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Like, yes, I feel bad for you guys in terms of social media, feeling that pressure, but it's also such a great resource because you have so many platforms to learn from: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, to learn different styles, textures, technical elements. So you have the ability to learn so much more than what we did.
Yeah.
You know, instead of getting this grainy video on you that was 10 seconds long and they're like, goodbye, you know, and you're like, what? Okay, I guess I'll just figure it out on my own. And sometimes you did.
Yeah.
That's it, you know?
Yeah. You have the most abundant amount of resources right now. You just have to want it. You have to want to put the time in, because we're also in the day and age of like Amazon Prime is getting a delivery in 2 hours.
Literally.
You have to, like, you're going to be told no, you're going to be crushed sometimes. And if you keep driving, keep putting in the effort, the hard work will pay off on the other side. You just have to want it badly enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Us as a society, it's instant gratification, what everyone is looking for.
Yeah.
And it's hard getting out of that mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Did you make the team on Mavs the first time you auditioned?
Yes, ma'am.
You did? And DCC?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. You're lucky.
But I don't take that for granted. And I always try to tell people, you know, I'm not sitting here being like, I'm amazing. Yeah. My mama raised me to where I was one of those kids that if I came up to her, and I remember there was a solo that I had in 7th grade where I fell to the floor and like landed on my hands and I really kind of hurt my hand. I think I popped a blood vessel. Mind you, she's also a medical provider. Okay. So she kept it real. She kept it real with me. And she goes, I would show her my hand. I'm like, I really hurt myself. She goes, is there a broken bone? Are you bleeding? No, you're fine. It's okay. Go on. Yeah. Like she was encouraging, but she kept it real with me, you know? And she would always, even to this day, she kind of has Nick Saban's mindset where, hey, good job, guys. We won the game today. Or, hey, you got first place for your solo. Amazing. Celebrate tonight, but tomorrow the work begins. Yeah. You know, like we're not getting complacent. We're back up and at it. And I always loved her because she has some dance background, but she also has an audience perspective too. So she would tell me from both sides, hey, this is how it's coming off. Let's work on this. Let's work on this. So I'm very appreciative of her, but she kept me grinding, not to where I obviously exhausted myself and burned out, because obviously I still pursued it after college, but I'm very appreciative with the upbringing, that and the morals and values and the work ethic that she instilled in me from a very young age, because I think that's why, you know, I was able to make it the first time. But I always tell people, like, guys, whenever you're out on that dance floor, you're not dancing for yourself. You're dancing for your mama and your dad that paid for you to get here, that drove you to all those classes, for your sister, your brother, your friends that all supported you along the way, that hugged you whenever you were crying, that hugged you whenever you were celebrating, for all your dance teachers that spent so much time, you know, in classes or privates or rehearsals, you know, helping you and teaching you. That's why I always tell people, guys, whenever your teachers give you a critique, it is not because, oh, you suck, we hate you, ha ha. It's come from a place of love, because they see the potential in you and they want to help you. When they stop telling different critiques and giving you feedback, that's when you need to start to be a little nervous. Yeah. Because then it's like, oh, okay. Because maybe if you keep giving attitude, you got to be careful with body language, even though you might not be talking, but whenever they give you feedback, and if you're not executing it and applying it, then why am I going to keep wasting my breath on someone that's not listening to me, and let me, you know, put forth my efforts into someone that will. So that's why I always tell people, be mindful, not just whenever you're in the center about to do the routine, be mindful of what you're doing on the sideline too, because body language, even though you're not talking, there's a lot to be said about who you are as a dancer and as a learner, as a student, even with your facial expressions and your body language.
And I think, or at least from my perspective, I know that who you are has so much to do with how you make a team.
Oh, yeah.
And your personality, your demeanor. And it's not that you need to change yourself but you also need to be very self-aware of who you are, how you show up. Like, I know I have RBF. We make fun of it because I'm like, when I'm judging, like nobody wants to be in front of me because I'm like staring everyone down. But I could turn it on. I was the appearance queen. I was I'm talking to everyone, doing all these things.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't fake by any means from my perspective. It was just, I'm very introverted and you would never know that. But then I'm an extrovert because I'm a dancer. And this is part of the role that I had to play in being this person.
Yeah.
And so the way that you react to things, the way that you take feedback, the way that you interact with others at auditions, all of them can play into whether or not you make it onto the team.
Huge. That could be the breaking point or the deciding factor for a lot of teams too, because you could do 50 million turns, but if you can't talk to your teammates and if you can't take feedback, they're going to take the other girl that can do a solid triple over your 50.
Yeah. And I think college is very dance focused. However, there has been a larger emphasis now on social media, how you interview, all those things. It's pulling a lot from the pro space. And now the pro space, you getting to finals, you're among the best dancers. And just being able to execute moves does nothing for you. And I see videos of dancers and they're like, I don't know why I didn't make it to semifinals. I don't know why I didn't make it to finals, because you're just doing the movements. And even just the dance portion alone, say it's 50% of your score, you have to be able to be entertaining. Like you said, NBA, you're more intimate. NFL, you're projecting. You have to be able to turn the entertainment factor on, not just let me be able to do these dance skills, these dance moves. What makes you unique in your it factor? And then the other 50% is your interview, being a brand ambassador, your social media, all these other things. So like the dance portion is a big piece, but it's also a small piece. And you have to be this well-rounded person to ultimately make it onto a team.
No, it's true. And especially with social media now, it's very easy to find you. It's very easy to see what you've posted, what you said, how you've interacted with people. And of course, I think even I to this day go with the fear of saying and doing the wrong thing, because then someone is going to say something and then you receive this backlash and then all of a sudden you're canceled and you're marked off as this terrible person. And you're like, oh, I think there was a big misunderstanding here, guys. I did not mean it like that. This is getting way out of proportion. So I understand the fear behind that. So you have to find the balance of staying true to you, not losing your personality, because then obviously that feeds into your movements and that's what makes you unique, because they're not looking for cookie cutter dancers. Right. They don't want 36 of the same looking people, same active people on the field. That's why this is a unique program across the board. So you have to find that balance between staying true to you, but then also remembering that you are representing not just you, but something bigger than you. But I always told people, I said, y'all, I'm glad I'm in dance because it keeps me out of trouble. I'm dancing all the time and going to classes, and then I come home and then I do my homework, I go to sleep, and then I do it all over the next day. But people were like, oh, didn't you get sick of that? Wasn't that a lot? And I go, no, because I learned so much in the classroom that I could apply to daily life. Focus on what you can't control. You can focus on having a good attitude, on being on time, coming prepared, going over your choreography, like whatever it is, or being a good teammate, being there for those, in your classroom, helping them or supporting them, whatever it is. You can focus on that. But it's not just in the dance room. It's not just during rehearsals. You can do that in the professional world, at school, with your family, things like that. So there's a lot of discipline that goes into dance that can be integrated into more than just dance. Yeah. And that's what I loved about it.
100%. I love that. Okay. Taking us back to our favorite experiences, because we went on a side tangent. I love it. We're like weird.
It happens.
Favorite time or moment at DCC?
I'm going to try my hardest to not cry, because I always cry on this one. It means so much to me. I'm already getting goosebumps thinking about it. So I told you that my mom was a provider. Yeah. She's worked in pediatrics my entire life. Okay. Her entire career. So I have just grown up in that environment and around a children's hospital, and it means a lot to me. And with Cowboys, every December, we would go and visit the children's hospitals throughout the Metroplex. And I was assigned to Cook's children out in Fort Worth my rookie year. So you walk in and you walk into the lobby, and of course they informed the hospital and the patient so they could come down, grab signatures, talk to us, this and that. And then they broke us up into smaller groups, and we would go to various parts throughout the hospital. And I, along with I think three or four other girls, we went to the behavioral health section of the hospital. And so they sat us down, and there were children all at the tables talking to us, and we were signing things, just getting to know them. But I saw this little boy standing next to a nurse, and he was just by himself, but you could tell that he was very nervous to approach us. And of course, you kind of expect that with little kids. It's kind of like they're hiding behind their parents, and like maybe they're too nervous to say hi because they're scared or because they're too excited. But either way, this little boy was clinging onto this nurse. And so the nurse was just trying to tell him, hey, it's okay, you can sit down. He didn't say a word. And I was going on just asking him about what little boys might be interested in: sports, video games, Spider-Man, whatever it is. And then I was asking him about Cowboys, like, hey, do you like the Cowboys? And at first, he wasn't even nodding his head. He wasn't saying any words, wasn't nodding. And then he goes, I go, great. I love that. I was trying to ask him his favorite players, and I was naming off things. And then I go, well, what's something that you really like? And then he just looks at me and he goes, I like video games. I go, I love that. I'm like, I'm not a big video game person myself, but I do love a good Mario Kart. I love a good Wii Time, Guitar Hero, whatever it is. And that was as much as I got out of him, just that he loved video games. And so our time was up, and the nurse was letting us out, and she started crying next to me. And I was sitting here, I go, kids, you can see. She goes, I asked her, I said, why are you crying? Did I do something? Did something else happen? Is a child okay? What happened? And she goes, you have no idea what that meant. That little boy has been here for about 3 or 4 months, and he has not said a word to anyone. And you are the first person that he talked to. And it's moments like that reminds you, like, why we do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is so much bigger than just ourselves. I literally have goosebumps. It's so much bigger than just ourselves. Like, we really are inspiring younger generations of dancers, sure, but we might even be inspiring just anyone, regardless of their age. They could be younger, they could be older. I mean, I've had people reach out to me over Instagram that they asked me about, like, my spine issue, and I was able to tell them about the procedure that I had and actually saved them from having a fusion, because my procedure saved my range of motion at that level, but fusions, you would actually lose it. And so he literally told me that his grandma is now still able to move his neck because I told him about this procedure. You know what I mean? So it's things like that. It's so much bigger than dance. It's so much bigger than ourselves. And granted, like, those are still great. Don't get me wrong. But you forget how impactful your presence can be just with something as simple as asking them, like, hey, how was your day? Because you never know what people are going through. And just that moment of someone showing them that they care and that they're loved and that they are worthy and that they're more than enough, that to me will be one of the greatest moments of my life. So yeah, that hands down, that experience.
Love that. Yeah. It's so special, the experiences that we get to have as dancers in the NBA or NFL. Okay. Let's talk about your injury. You kind of, you started talking about it. Yeah. Tell me what happened.
Oh man. So it started the end of my rookie year, probably in about March, where I might get a little technical, but I'll try to kind of point to the body. So in March, I noticed a more muscular related injury in the muscle right here, the sternocleidomastoid. No problem. We're all dealing with muscle injuries. It is nothing new to us. We are no stranger to muscle injuries. But I noticed that it was progressively worsening, and then especially during training camp. And this was during COVID. So we were sequestered at the Gaylord Texan for a couple of weeks, but it was just dancing all day, every day. Okay. And as you very well know, hairography is crucial. It is crucial. And I love to throw my hair. So of course that made my neck injury worse. And then there was a time in November. So we're talking March of 2020 to November of 2020. There was a time in November where I woke up and I couldn't turn my head past about 5 degrees to the left, but I could turn it to the right, no problem. And I was freaking out because we had about 5 days until our next game. And I just want to preface this by saying I haven't really told this story about, I've said what happened. I just didn't really say where or when, because I didn't want to create an uncomfortable situation for anyone. And I don't fault anyone. And it'll make sense, why I say that moving into it. But there's just a time and a place for what happened to me. And unfortunately, I was not the candidate for this. So I went to one of our unofficial sponsors, and I know that they were offering us services, and they were very kind to do so. Again, so like they had the best of intentions, and they took great care of us. But it was a chiropractic clinic. And growing up, I had just heard horror stories of people suffering from adjustments that either were paralyzed or even bled to death, like internally bled to death, because you can die from adjustments. If there's a bone spur on your spine, and if these chiropractors, some take imaging and consult a radiologist prior to neck adjustments, but not all do. And so, with that being said, sometimes you're dealing with Pandora's box and you don't know what you're opening until it's too late. And so, sometimes there are bone spurs on people's spines and they don't know it. And when a chiropractor adjusts their neck, that bone spur can slice a nerve and paralyze you immediately, or they can slice an artery or vein and you internally bleed to death. And so I would tell people after this adjustment that I was just lucky to be alive and walking and breathing. And they would laugh at me. And I go, no, guys, seriously, there's been news coverage. I don't think there's as much news coverage about it, but people have, this has happened. It can be a result. So I went into this chiropractic clinic and she would adjust, pop my ankles or readjust my hips or whatever it was. And I was like, no problem. But she was insistent on adjusting my spine. And again, I know she did it with the best of intentions. She was trying to give me relief. I understand that. But again, I was not the candidate for it. And so I'm a very confrontational person. And when I get nervous, I laugh. And she kept asking me, and I just didn't know how to say no in the politest way because I knew she meant well. But when I laughed, I think she took that as the green light to adjust me. And she took my head and threw it to the left. And I had shooting pains on the whole left side of my body immediately. And I was screaming bloody murder for like 15 or 20 minutes. And I could not stop crying. And I knew something terrible had happened. And to sum that up, I had 3 herniated discs in my cervical spine from the C4 to C6. And I was losing feeling in my body for hours or days at a time. And so all of our games in November, December, I couldn't feel the left side of my body. And I was crying in between almost every single dance, but no one knew because our mask was covering us and my tears were being caught by the mask. And between November and July, I had about 150 trigger point injections, 4 epidurals, 3 of which were not sedated because insurance didn't want to pay for the sedation. So imagine being aware that a needle about this long was going into your spine. That's nerve wracking, no pun intended. And then I was going to PT 1 to 3 times a week. I was on 3 different medications daily, and one of them was a nerve blocker. I hated that medication because I felt like a zombie. There were times where I had to pull over because I felt drunk or like high or whatever it was. I just felt like a shell of myself for a very long time because there was just like this dark looming cloud over me all the time where the pain was just so overwhelming to where I couldn't think straight. I couldn't formulate sentences. Like the fact that I was even dancing throughout all of this was, in hindsight, and as we all know, hindsight is 2020, probably wasn't the smartest. But when you're in that moment, and probably people outside looking in, they probably thought I was a freaking idiot, being like, why are you risking your health just to dance? But again, this wasn't just to dance. This was something that I've worked my entire life for. This is something that I continuously kept working hard for, that I wasn't about to throw it all away to be like, I at least wanted to try. That's a thing, because I didn't want to go the rest of my life thinking, what if I had at least tried, would I have still been on the team? And so finally, we tried all of these conservative approaches to help with my pain. And I'll never forget it. There was a time in July where we were at training camp and I literally ran to the bathroom in between dances and I was screaming my head off and crying, and I wiped my tears and came back out. And then they had us do 2 dances back to back. And I thought I was going to pass out because my chest kind of constricted and I felt like I could not breathe. But it was just because my whole upper body was just guarded. And a few days after that was whenever I consulted my pain management specialist. And that's when they told me I was risking paralysis, loss of feeling in my extremities, and I needed to stop dancing or have surgery. And I had to pull out 5 days before they announced the team. And then I had surgery a couple of weeks later. I did try re-auditioning 10 months post-op. I do not recommend that. I was cleared at 9 months. So I tried regaining everything I lost in 9 months within a month. And when I was at auditions, it felt like, imagine someone take a candy wrapper and just crunching it in your ear. Anytime that I moved my head, it felt like that. And I was just scared beyond reason, thinking that I had done something. And Kelly and Judy, they did not take me back. Here's the thing though, I'm actually very thankful to them. I couldn't walk for 6 weeks after that audition because I was just in so much pain. But they were actually the ones, aside from my mom and my doctor and my PT, that were all like, Lisa, are you sure about this? Are you sure about this? Kelly and Judy were the ones saying, they actually sat me down during training camp and they said, with all due respect, you're crazy if you think that you can get through this by masking your pain with trigger point injections, epidurals, whatever it is. Lisa, we are not just talking about the next 1 or 2 years of dancing. We are talking about the rest of your life. You have one body, and this is the quality of your life for the rest of your life. And in that moment, like, they were looking at me as one of their daughters and not just a number on a spreadsheet. They were genuinely concerned for my health, and they were the ones saying, like, of course we want you to stay. Of course we want you to continue your professional career here with us. But at the same time, it is not worth the rest of your life, especially knowing how severe the injury was. And so I'm thankful for them to just have that candid and open conversation with me, because I know it wasn't easy. We were all crying. We're like, oh my God. You know how it goes. But it was hard. It was hard because it's one thing willingly retiring. It's another thing being forced to retire. And that in itself it had a physical impact on me. But even to this day, there is still a heavy emotional and mental impact too. Because sometimes it is hard to see posts, thinking, what if I didn't have the injury? Would I still be there? Would I have made it 5 years? Would, like all these things just run through your head. And it was grieving. It was like you lost a loved one, and you're going through these different stages of depression, anger, bargaining. And it finally took me all these years to accept it. But I'm not sitting here saying that it was a linear path by any means. I acknowledged probably, so 2 years after my spine surgery, I ended up having hip surgery, literally almost 2 years to the date. At least I went out in style, because I already knew that I had a torn labrum. I was having hip issues on Mavs and Cowboys, but of course it was made worse by the jump split and kicks. But, it happens to all of us dancers. I'm not sitting here being like, oh, look at me, I'm so special, I have a torn labrum. No, we all do. But I had a torn labrum, but then I also had this bony overgrowth on my femoral head from all the impact from the jump split and this and that. But I didn't know that I had a bone spur in my hip. And I love Blink 182. So I went to the Blink 182 concert on July 2023. And I guess I went too hard because I was in the pit and I was jumping up and down. That bone spur sliced off a centimeter of cartilage and tore my already torn labrum more. And I went home that night and I was like, oh, my hip kind of hurts. I'm not kidding. I could not touch my hip even like that because I was in excruciating, agonizing pain. I was texting my PT about it. He told me, oh, you might have avascular necrosis. If you don't know what that is, that means that there's a lack of blood supply to your femoral head, meaning I could have potentially needed a graft where they would have had to cut off my femoral head and then place another one in there. Thank God it wasn't that. It was just the bone spur sliced off centimeter cartilage and then torn labrum. So I ended up having hip surgery where they put like 10 or 12 anchors or something. They shaved down my bone, took out the bone spur. I had this cartilage defect. And they were like, oh, if you didn't have that cartilage defect, you'd be able to walk after about 4 or 6 weeks. I couldn't walk for 3 months. I had my right leg was a centimeter smaller than my left leg. Fast forward, I had 2 more surgeries in March and April of time. I went through the worst breakup of my life, literally 2 days before my surgery. And then a year later, I get diagnosed with bilateral thoracic outlet syndrome, which they think was a result from my spine injury. We've been doing conservative, approaches with this, but it was because my other surgery made me think that the symptoms that I was experiencing all this time was normal. No, it's not. Like, I would have burning sensations and I would have shooting pain all the way down both my arms into my fingers. And I would have the pins and needles were okay, but sometimes it would come back. But it was more so the burning. And that's a major symptom of nerve pain and nerve damage. And so, yeah, I was diagnosed with bilateral thoracic outlet syndrome. We've done everything that we could with injections and PT. But now it's gotten to the point where I'm losing function in my right arm. Like, I would literally be standing here and it would start shaking. So I'm losing function in my right arm. And because of that, I will have surgery at the end of the year, which entails removing my first rib and releasing my scalene and my pec minor muscles, but I'll need it on both sides.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it's taken a long time for me to accept all of this. And I was putting so much effort into my physical health that I wasn't really addressing my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was after that breakup that I went through that I was like, I think I need to address my mental health. And so like I said, this hasn't been a linear process because I felt like anytime that I got back up on my feet, I was kicked back down. And they told me that any kind of injury recovery is like the stock market. So as long as you're trending upward, that's good. Of course, you'll have some setbacks, but it's like a stock market. And so it's taken me a long time to accept that because I didn't for the longest time. And people don't realize that if you don't have a positive mindset, that it has a huge impact on your physical health too. If you stay negative here, it makes your symptoms 20 million times worse. So I'm very, very thankful for my PT, my therapist, my mom, my friends, my family that have been here throughout this entire journey, because I would not be here today if it was not for them. This by no means can be done by yourself. It is hard. It takes a village. And I'm very, very thankful for them, because it didn't just affect me too, it affected them. My mom said that was the hardest thing, watching me go through that. So I'm very, very thankful, but those are my injuries.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
bananas.
Yeah.
What a lot of us, like you said, we go after the physical side. And like, if I
Mhm.
just fix, and this could be for dancers who don't make it. This could be for
Mhm.
injuries. This could be for not getting skills that you want, right? You focus on the physical, but how you talk to yourself has such a huge impact on everything that you do.
Mhm.
What did you do to work on your mental side of things?
I did have to rearrange my inner dialogue for sure, because it was very, very negative for very, very long. Especially when you deal with these injuries, your body changes and it can't. That was the other thing too. I was always frustrated because I knew that I wasn't able to perform to my maximum capacity because I physically wasn't able to. So then I would sit here and say that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't skinny enough, I wasn't funny enough, I wasn't talented enough. All these things just run through your head. And then add on social media where everyone has an opinion. And then if you post one thing, someone commented one time that I would look better if I was 10 pounds skinnier, or that I looked like a troll, or that I look like a dude dancing with boobs, or I was Dallas toxic sludge or something. Like people are just mean, but we all got hate comments. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And one of my girlfriends actually put it in perspective. She said, if you don't value that person, why would you put value into their words? Because I guarantee you that person that was probably saying it was, do you know what a pirouette is? And that's okay. But and then my dance teacher from way back when actually told me, and I love this one. He told me, he goes, Lisa, you can be the juiciest, ripest peach on this planet, but there will still be someone that doesn't like peaches. And I'm like, "Mm, okay. And so I really had to change my inner dialogue, saying, especially the weight thing, as that's always a hot topic with dancers in the professional world. But with the steroids that I was on and the steroid injections that I had, obviously that has an effect on inflammation, puffiness, and then you eat, like you just can't stop eating. And I was gaining weight. And, I would tell myself some mean things. And I was like, hold up, it didn't really start again. This didn't really start until after I started talking to my therapist and how we can fix this. We can address our like the aspects in our life that we need some TLC or that we want to improve on. And for me, it was weight in the moment. And I said, you know what? I'm not at my ideal weight right now, but I will get there. What do I have to do in order to achieve that? So it was just a matter of changing your mindset. And instead of saying like, oh, I'm not good at this. Hold up. If you're saying like, oh, I suck at jazz. You know what? I'm really good at hip hop, but I can improve in jazz as long as I go to classes. Things like that. Because people don't realize, like you said, the impact that your words have, but the more that you speak it, the more that it manifests and the more that it becomes your truth. And I finally had to take a step back and sit, what do I want my truth to be? What do I want my life to look like? Not that, not how I'm talking to myself. So it really was a matter of just changing my mindset and being aware of how I'm wording it. And instead of saying the things that were my shortcomings to be like my fault or what's broken with me, no. It's just room for improvement. We're especially as humans, nobody's perfect, but dancers, you are in the business where you are trying to attain the unattainable perfection. And so we nitpick, make it a little bit easier on yourself because it's even feedback from all kinds of directions. Take that, don't let it overcome you or become overwhelming to where all of a sudden you're like, forget it, I give up, I quit. Take that, take a step back and address, okay, these are the things that I need to improve on and then move from there. But you have to realize, what do I have to do in order to achieve it? It's not like you just take a magic pill and then one morning you're like, I'm amazing at jazz. No, it takes effort. It takes time. It takes dedication. And the thing that got me out of bed was, if you're not doing it, somebody else is. Especially come audition time. If you're not getting up for your 5 a.m. workout, somebody else is. If you're not taking technique classes, somebody else is. If you're not doing whatever, somebody else is. And especially with the innate competitive nature that us dancers have, that driving force, ooh, wait, I'm not openly competitive, but inside I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, watch me, So that's what helped me.
So good. So good. Speaking of kind of training auditioning and showing up for yourself, for dancers who are auditioning for the first time or for dancers who are coming back after being cut, do you have any final pieces of advice who are on this journey?
Yeah, my mom and I would say the same thing during every single audition. Three main things: remember your why, trust in the Lord, and trust in the process. Because I think sometimes we forget even why we're here because we're so focused and so nervous, right? But people don't realize that when it comes to auditions, that I could argue that it's more mental than physical because you have trained your body physically for decades.
Yep.
You know what your body's capable of, but then whenever it comes to auditions, you're sitting there like, I've been doing this for years now. Why did I mess it up on that? It's all mental. So you got to remember your why you're here. And I go back to what I was saying. You're not dancing for just yourself out there. You're dancing for your village that got you to where you are today. You know what I mean? So remember your why. Why are you doing this? You're doing this because dance is your passion, the discipline that you learn from dance and how you apply it to daily life, the friendships that you make, the sisterhood, impacting, inspiring younger generations, things like that. The list goes on. Whatever your why is, remember that. Trust in the Lord. I'm a very faithful Christian woman. So I tell myself, humans' rejection is God's redirection. People don't realize that timing is everything in this industry. It might be a no this year, but it could be a yes next year. You don't know that. It might be a no for this team, but it could be a yes for this other team.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. Sometimes people get so laser focused on one team, and that's okay. Like I get it if that was your dream, but there's so many fantastic programs throughout this nation that could be a right fit right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always tell people, that's okay if you have your laser focus. But I was just always one of those people that had a plan A, B, C, D, especially with my mama telling me, Lisa, girl, you are injury prone. What if you had a career ending injury? What are you going to do? And look, I did. And she was the one that helped me. Right now, I'm in medical device sales, but I studied biomedical engineering in college while still performing in the Pom Squad. So I had both of my passions and it's a work-life balance too. Anyway, but trust in the Lord. And the no's will lead you to the right yes. You see what I mean? Yeah. But sometimes it's so hard to see that. Like I understand that in the moment you're like, my world's over. No, it's not. No, it's not. And then trust in the process. Those two kind of tie in together. Like I said, it kind of bled into that, but it really is all about timing. Because also if you're a brunette, they already have a ton of brunettes. It literally could be a matter of hair color. Like you don't know or your height, or they just need shorter people now, but not next year. There's so many factors that go into play that I always tell people, don't let any program or any person on this earth tell you that you are not good enough, because you are. It's just a matter of reshifting your mindset. And your feelings are valid. It is a-okay to be upset in that moment. Cry for 6 weeks. I get it. After Cowboys, I get it. But I had to decide, was I going to keep going or was I going to stay stuck? And I even have white tattoos on here that say stay in peace and keep going, because those are gentle reminders to myself every single day that no matter what happens to you, what obstacle, you have the options to stay in peace and keep going, or you can stay stuck. So that's what I always tell people, especially going in auditions. But those are my 3 things.
So good. This was so fun. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me today. I know that this is going to help so many dancers.
Well, and I always tell people, please consider me like a big sis on Instagram. And that's not me being like, go like me and go follow no, you could literally just message me. You don't have to follow my profile or anything, but if you just wanted to message me and ask questions, like, please feel free to use me as a resource for anything.
No, the speed at which you answered my message, I was like, this is going to take like a couple weeks. I'm just going to wait. I'll wait for you to respond. And then you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm in. Because it's amazing.
Well, and that was the thing too. I always get kind of nervous just speaking on social media, because I sit here thinking, no one's listening to me. No one cares. But even if I help one person on this planet, that in itself means the world to me. You know what I mean? And it took me a while to realize that God's plan may have been not like, yes, I was able to fulfill my dream and dance on those teams, but maybe God's plan for me all along was to teach and tell people of my story, maybe injury prevention or bringing the world of chronic pain patients together, because it was a very lonely process for so many years. And like I said, I felt like a shell of a person walking around for so long. I didn't even feel like myself until recently. So even if this helps one person out there, like, that's the greatest blessing on this earth. Seriously.
Yeah. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Seriously, it's an honor. Thank you for what you're doing, helping and inspiring so many dancers across the nation. That is no easy feat. And that takes time, effort, expertise, guidance, support, all of it. God bless you. That's awesome.
Thank you.